spring, but we definitely do hire throughout, like most of it starts around May. But we do have a number of hires that come in August, September, October. But yeah, because U of T graduates in June. You guys are August. And then who else is later in the year?
There's Georgia Brown.
Yeah, Ryerson, I believe, has a late, so grads in December.
Yeah. But a lot of schools finish up in April, May. We try and spread it out over the year to make everything even, but most of it will start in May and end around October.
And with hiring nurses as well, we have nursing orientation once a month. So it is a 2-week orientation. So it seems like every month we are hiring, whether they're some experienced or new grads. So it is fairly consistent.
And we're just going to your website to look at the employment section or where?
Well, we're going to talk to you about that. Yeah.
So you do hire new grads on like a provisional basis before they get their CRNE results back? Or?
Yes, on a temporary license.
Yeah. And it's a condition of your offer letter, though, that you do.
And if you do fail, then we have a program to kind of help you go through that process when you're rewriting and stuff. So. Okay, resumes.
So we're not going to talk too much about this. I'm sure that you probably have sessions or you do have a support here with regards to resume writing. So we'll sort of skim through it, but obviously you know that it's a summary of your education and any paid, unpaid work. And also, surprisingly, with regards to just the job that you'll be applying for and your experience, do make sure you indicate your clinical experiences. There are still some new grad resumes that we do receive where people believe that just naming the hospital where they've had their clinical experience is enough.
Or vice versa. They say, I've been in these 4 program areas. Well, we want to know where you were, what you did there, and a brief summary of sort of the things you did.
Because there will be nurse managers who do call upon us and say, for example, oncology. You know, I'm looking for a new grad who has some oncology experience. So that will only help us as we're reviewing resumes to see, oh, so this person has had oncology experience and so forth. So I think most of you may know that that is important to include in your resume.
But it does happen very, like Linda said, you know, you just name the hospital or you just name the program. We want to see more than that. We don't want 10 pages worth, obviously, but just, you know, the hospital, what program area you were there, what year, like what time frame you were there at, and a brief summary. Bullets are always good, not sentences, of what you did on that unit.
So basically preparing your resume, as Andrea mentioned, you know, easy to read. You know, just we're sort of skimming through these resumes, and the easier you make it for us to see what we need to see, just makes it a little easier for us.
Again, no sentences in the actual resume, like your cover letter, fine, whatever, but try and stay away from sentences within your, it just makes it harder to read. Taking a quick look at it in sentences doesn't work so well. Make sure there's no spelling, grammar errors. We don't like to see that.
So basically, as Andrea was mentioning, it's not, you know, you don't want a detailed history of your life and times. Just stick to the facts. And then choosing your resume format. You know, there are different formats, but I believe functional may be, especially with all of you starting off right now in your nursing career, where you do want to emphasize your skills that you have. 4 years, 2 years of nursing. What have you learned? What is it that you're coming into our organization with?
I always like to see your education first. I mean, this is gonna, Olga could probably touch upon this a little bit more. I want to see your education first. I want to see where you went to school. I want to see when you graduated, how long you were there for, programs of interest or whatever. Some people add that, some people don't. And then I want to see your experience next. I want to see where your clinicals were. I would say most current to least current. Olga?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, Charles?
For instance, my experience has nothing to do with nursing. Some of us are from other backgrounds and experiences.
I would do your clinical experience first,
Yeah.
and then afterwards your other experiences. So are you saying you don't have any clinical experience?
Well, yes, but it's not as, I mean, if I have strength in other areas that's not core nursing, and I think these will come in handy into whatever I'm doing. And I got these experiences from other jobs that are completely not relevant to nursing. Would that sell me to an employer?
Use your own judgment. If you're applying for a job where you think these other skills are going to be more better looked upon by the manager, you use them first.
Yeah. And you know, Charles, I think we're very sensitive to the fact that you're coming in as new grads, so obviously we're not going to hold experiences against you. But I'll tell you, the way you present yourself in the interview, even previous experience might help because of patient population that we might have in the hospital. And again, for me, the big thing is how you're presenting yourself. We ask you specific questions, and I know that York embraces patient-centered care. This is one of the big things too that UHN embraces. So we are going to be asking you questions about that. And I'll tell you, so I've been nursing 40 years, and so you know what, I'm really good at, we're good at the body language and what comes out. There are people who are great interviewees, but I'll tell you, we can pick out the real McCoy, if you will. So don't come telling us things that you really aren't, because you know what, I'm not the only one sitting in an interview interviewing you. Normally what we do, we have nursing colleagues, we have ward clerks, we have PCAs, we have social workers. So we have people asking you questions that are related to what we're doing on the unit, because we work as a team on the unit, so they will ask you. So come be yourself, that's a big thing. Be yourself, answer the questions as you would normally, and we go from there. So as new grads, I wouldn't worry too much. Yes, we need to know where your clinical skills have been, because we need to know how well, what your learning curve will be, right? But as new grads, it will be a bit steeper than if I were to apply for a job in Emerge. I've got all that experience already, so my learning curve will be very low, right? So we're not going to hold that part against you, but you need to come across strong, confident, and yeah, we're going to be looking for the people skills that you're presenting.
You know, you definitely touched upon at the bottom as well, like after all your experience and stuff, other stuff that you have done.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to put that, you know,
Sell
you've
yourself.
been working with the Student Nursing Association
Or that you volunteered in the chemo
That's right.
unit or
That's
something.
right.
Never. She's gone. Probably went to volunteer.
But definitely add that sort of stuff in. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt. Like I said, don't make it 15 pages long. So if you have to cut some stuff out, know where to cut it. Don't feel afraid to add some stuff in there. There was a, yeah.
Do you ever take into account our prior degree, like before we took the nursing?
Definitely. Make sure you put that on there. Yeah.
As far as experiences go, how far back would you want us to go? Because we could go back and say, oh yeah, grade 12 I did this.
I went to McDonald's for 3 years. I think you touched upon this, didn't you?
No, I don't.
For a first job, so, you know, I put your nursing stuff on, and maybe during university, I worked at, you know, local hospital in food preparation or something like that. Like, I'd put that you had jobs, but I would go back to, you know, grade 9 and babysat for.
Yeah.
So just
So
stick within
so.
the last degree? Or even your 2 degrees?
Oh, for education, are you talking
No,
about?
No, experiences.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't go any more than 5 years back.
Okay.
We can probably talk about different
again, talking about some other highlights that you might have within your life that you may want to add in there.
And then things to consider, I think the last point is also with regards to abbreviations. You can see how, CGA could mean one thing to one person, but yet another thing to another person. So
you can always spell it out and then put brackets afterwards, what it stands for, but. The first one, don't use I, we. Again, bullets, spelling, grammar. Olga touched on this.
Spelling is really important because that gives me an idea of how your nursing, your documentation will be, and that is a concern for me because I tell you, I'm a stickler for proper documentation. And you need to know that UHN also, this is part of what we're wanting for people to be able to document. And you know what, again, guys, as nurses, people in other professions, they are taught how to document properly. Nurses, for whatever reason, usually document, and I hear physicians especially say, this is trivia. You need to be able to document with proper spelling to tell a story about your patients, right? And not just, patient had a bowel movement and this is what it looks like. You know what? I'm not really interested. Tell me what's happened to your patient this morning so that when I come on this afternoon, I have a good sense of, so that is, it's very, very important.
And it even goes back to professionalism.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not going to apply for a job spelling stuff wrong. It doesn't look bad.
Yes.
Yep.
Would you guys be able to make any of these PowerPoint presentations available to us at a later date?
Sure. Yeah, we can probably send them to you.
Maybe Charles.
As well as the RNAO one, like all of them if possible, that would be great.
The last one.
Yeah, I was just going to mention too.
It's one of these.
Too much information.
Yeah. So I don't want to know that you were born in Timmins.
Which is great,
that you're 24, that you're 58,
that you're married with 5 children.
Go to the gym a lot. No.
You don't want to know that I've been nursing 40 years? I was 5 when I started.
SIN number, all that.
Pictures.
Yeah, definitely. None of that stuff. Ideally 2 pages.
Yeah.
What you usually see is 2 pages on a resume and a cover letter. Cover letters first, 2 pages. Try when you're doing your pages that the first page doesn't run into the second page, so if you can break it off at the second page. So say you're in the middle of a clinical placement and you're like, oh, I did this placement at TGH and this, and then it's like the first bullet point and then breaking page, the second bullet point. Try and end it at a stop point.
Is there a specific font size or a type of writing that's easier for you to read when you're looking at resumes?
I would think so. I'd say play with it a little. If in that situation you're breaking in between, you're like, I don't want to take anything out. Reduce font size and thing, and maybe it'll work out for you.
Just
Keep it consistent.
Yeah. And it's easy to read,
Okay.
You yourself can read it.
Make sure it's not a G.
I think basically you guys should stick to what the school teaches you. And that's 12 times Romans. I think you should stick to that. And right?
Again, you don't need anything fancy, anything all calligraphy-ish, and don't use different fonts.
Yeah.
Now another thing is though, if you are presenting your resume with a cover letter, remember that cover letter needs to be changed. So if you have just submitted your resume to, let's say Sunnybrook, and then you send a cover letter and a resume to University Health Network, and oops, I didn't change the name of the hospital.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't look good.
It can happen so easily, we know that, but just have to
Be careful, and if you put it in a footer, then you forget about the footer too, so.
So yeah, this is what I had